But I gotta say, the last time you and I talked just one-on-one, I think, was for Jojo Rabbit, which
Either that or
for
it was All the President's Men, one of the two.
was that after or before? I don't. You might be
Right around the
right.
same time. But yeah.
Okay, yeah. I gotta say, and I don't know why. Maybe someone can write in with this, but to date, our Jojo Rabbit video is my most popular YouTube video with something like 1,300 views. I don't,
That's
I don't know
I think
what
it, I
happened.
th I think it landed at the right time, and we had a good convo on it. And I don't know, just the right movie hits with the right people sometimes, and that's fun.
Yeah, it continues to amaze me as people are still like watching it today. And I know 1,300 views is not, it's not millions of views or whatever, but for
No,
for a
but
small time
yeah.
YouTuber, it's the jackpot.
Oh, I know. It's weird. Like when I see the stats on Squarespace for the reviews that hit or don't hit, it's weird. Like which ones. Like I think my like second most read review ever, like that keeps getting reviews all the time, is that Rock movie, the disaster one, San Andreas.
Yeah. Okay.
And then it's Chris Evans's directorial debut from I don't know 5 years ago. Was it Before You Go? Where he's like a busker in a train station and he picks up that what is it, Alice Eve from Star Trek. And I wrote a review on it because it was like a VOD title when it came out, and like I don't know why people keep reading it and reading it and reading it. And I'm like, of all the movies, that's the one. Okay.
Well, Chris Evans is a busker in a bus or a train station with Alice Eve. I gotta go check this movie out.
Yeah, it's his directorial debut. It's kind of like a little bit of a Linklater light, because it's like
Hmm.
an all one night kind of movie. Like this woman is stranded at the train station. She's trying to get like home to family or something, and this guy who plays trumpet in Grand Central New York, of course he looks like Chris Evans, uh decides to like help her out through the night, and they have like their like a one night adventure trying to figure their way out of the city or safe or get a meal and stuff like that. It's beautiful white people doing beautiful white things, but it's still it's yeah, for a directorial debut it's not that bad. It's not bad.
All right. Well, speaking of beautiful white people doing beautiful white things, we are here
Mhm.
tonight to talk about
Chinese
uh,
people.
Chinese people. Yes.
Asian
Um,
stereotypes. Yeah.
well, let's just get this out of the way. We are talking about Mulan,
Yeah.
not the movie that was supposed to open today
Oh,
when this episode goes up, the 2020 version, but the 1998 2D Disney animated original, which I had not seen until I watched it this morning. I'd never, for 2 decades, I've
oh,
been
okay.
going without having seen Mulan. And it's strange because I think I had avoided watching the trailer for the remake because I'm getting kind of finicky now. Like, they really do give away too much, and I also had no context. So I'm like, I'll just wait and see the movie. Now that we don't know when the new movie is coming out, I watched
Yeah.
the trailer after watching the '98 version, and boy, does it look different.
Yeah. I mean, that's the word around the campfire is that this is Nikki Caro, so she's a very serious filmmaker who Disney enlisted, and yeah, there's gonna be no. Now that you've seen the animated one, there's no songs in it. There's no love interest in it. They're going straight, you know, um, traditional myth here a little bit because she's a true character and a true story that is far deeper than the animated movie. So it's kind of nice to see them. I'll take a serious take in terms of one of these Disney reimaginings. Something on a better level than just retread.
Well, I mean, but honestly, I one of the things I'm just not interested in the new version. Now that'll change once I do get to see it because I am, if well, I should say when it comes out, whether that's
Hmm.
digitally or if they can hold
Yeah.
off for however long it's going to take before people get back in the theater, I'll watch it with great interest because I have been a fan of a lot of the Disney live action remakes. But what I
Hmm.
got to say is I understand what you're saying about this being based on a richer story, but watching the trailer they do swipe a lot from the 2D animated, especially up
Sure.
until like the half mark of the trailer. They've got the montage of her like watching her dad prepare to battle, and everything
Hmm.
is pretty much just shot for shot.
Yeah.
But then they introduce like, oh, and now there's a witch, and
Yeah.
and there's no talking dragon sidekick, but I caught a glimpse of, I don't know if it was a dragon or if that was like one of the birds or something, but
Yeah.
there was something swooping and swashing around.
My guess is the Falcon that goes with the bad guy.
Well, I saw the Falcon for sure, but there was
Mhm.
another.
Oh, another thing?
Yeah, it almost the end of the '98 version where Mushu, the talking funny Eddie Murphy dragon,
Hmm.
flies up to the tower that has all the explosives that he like commandeers a bat to make himself look bigger. It almost
Yeah.
looked like that was going on,
Oh,
but
oh boy.
apparently not because there's no Mushu.
Yeah. No, I'm intrigued to see what they can do non-musical. I'm intrigued to see what they can do with obviously traditional actors. For when you're behind animation, you can combine, different Asian demographics and races here. Like you have George Takei in the '98 one. You have a mix of Filipino and Japanese and Chinese people and Taiwanese people. So for them to go straight Chinese and to get some pretty heavy hitter actors in there, you got Donnie Yen. We haven't seen him in the trailer, but Jet Li plays the Emperor of China, so like it'll
Oh
be
wow.
pretty. So they're I like the ambition of what they're going for, and I'm pleased to see it. I just think there's room for that animated one to go, and if there's all these reimaginings we get, it's very few of them to me ever grow from where they were before. They're a nice emulation. They obviously get a little louder, a little brighter, but they don't grow. But something like Pete's Dragon grows, something like Cinderella grows.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cinderella, I think, and I'd have to go back and look at my list of the remakes or the readaptations, reimaginings. But Cinderella really is the high watermark for me. A lot of it comes down to not only the performances, but Kenneth Branagh
Oh yeah.
like making an effort to limit the amount of CG spectacle in that movie.
Hmm.
It's all about the costumes and the
Yeah.
settings and the story they're telling, which is awesome. Um, but you're talking about the cast, the voice cast on the '98 version. Uh, in addition to the Pan Asian collective, you also have
Hmm.
Miguel Ferrer as Shan Yu and
Yeah.
Harvey Firestein as Yao,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
they stick out like sore thumbs.
Oh, I know. So, and I get I mean, that's Disney. I remember reading some history on it where they were coming down from two low successes. Like Hunchback didn't earn back what they thought it would. Hercules didn't earn back what it thought it would. This one got a smaller budget and half the marketing money that the previous two Disney annual hits got. And you could tell because I don't think like the animation is to die for. I mean I think the matte painting aspect of it, like the backgrounds they try to do to emulate watercolor and the vibrant colors of winter in China are really good. But like your actual character animation isn't much better than a DC animated series at the same time.
Well,
I felt like I was watching Batman or Superman right there for a bit.
well, I mean, I'll say the rendering of the characters, the style, I can agree with you on because first of all, it's been a while since I've watched a 2D animated film. I'm so used to watching,
Oh, I
everything's
bet.
Pixar and
Yeah.
Disney Studios now, or I
Hmm.
should say the modern Disney Studios, that it is kind of not off-putting, but it's a bit of a shock. Like, wait, these
It is.
characters have no shading or definition on them. It's
Yeah.
just flat colors and with the
Uh-huh.
occasional airbrush sort of looking thing, like on the horse's face.
Yeah.
But I will say the animation I thought was pretty spectacular in some parts. Just the
Hmm.
movement that they captured,
Yeah.
particularly in the I can't remember the name of it. I'll make a man out of you. That
Yeah.
that's definitely a song that's not going to make it to 2020.
No.
Um,
No.
but the animation in that sequence, particularly when all the soldiers are fighting in unison, there's the avalanche scene that's just
Hmm.
remarkable.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean this for anybody who looks back on the pre-Pixar Disney and says, it just looks kind of boring and it looks old. Just watching this, you really forget that this is just 2D animation. People had to
Hmm.
go in and make these camera moves
Yeah.
through animation, drawing cell by cell, things getting larger or smaller in
Yeah.
perspective. It's phenomenal.
I remember reading how they dabbled with some rendering to like do multiple to be able to render multiple drawings to do multiple things. Like when you see those crowd scenes coming down that avalanche, or even the soldiers in unison, it's still too deep, but they had some help, and it was like their first attempt to do some of that stuff that in the next 5 years within this time. Peter Jackson would do to a larger degree with his massive software he did for Lord of the Rings, where
Sure.
you have these independent bodies that can move on their own slight programming, but you can see the volume for sure, and the depth would only get better. Like 2 years after this, you have Tarzan, and I remember Tarzan really taking advantage in a 2D way of still taking you 3D through textures. Like when he's swinging and sliding through those trees in the Tarzan in 2000, that one's awesome. In fact,
Well,
that
there
might actually
was,
be the very next year. I think it's 1999. I think I'm off by a year. So just one year
yeah.
later, they really nailed Tarzan.
And Tarzan, if I remember correctly, they were playing around with some 3D cameras or some technique, because I know that was a big selling point for that. But you also still had it was like that blend, that Jurassic
Yeah.
Park kind of thing, where you've got
Yeah.
you've got your experts working in the 2D space, but you're also incorporating this new computer graphics stuff
Oh
that all
no.
the kids are going to be into.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you
So how? Go ahead.
So you said it's been a while since you see a 2D film. Do you miss them? Is it a nice diversion to get back into some of those? I love them. I don't get tired of them.
Well, that's the thing is I just haven't, I mostly watch movies for, this show and my kids are all into, if they're watching stuff on Disney Plus, they're checking out the Pixar things.
Yeah.
On top of that, the modern animated films, be it Disney or even, the stuff that like Illumination is putting out, it's a lot of flash and bang and,
It is.
quick motion, quick cuts.
Yeah.
So the older Disney stuff, particularly like the really old, like source Disney, I can't
Hmm.
even watch because it's so slow. It's kind of like
Okay.
I'd see people go into the Art Institute when I was in art school, and they'd
Hmm.
stand in front of one painting for like 2 hours. I'm like, I got the painting in like 10 minutes. I understand
Yes.
what's going on. They're not even like sitting down to like do a sketch study or try and
Right.
recreate it. They're just looking at it. I'm like, I have to believe you're just being pretentious and you want to be seen, because Jesus. Anyway, I kind of feel the same way about early Disney. Like the animation is gorgeous, but at a certain point, watching people walk through the woods for 5 minutes, I feel it.
I understand. I understand. I like the slowdowns that come from the old ones, but I bet it but yeah, this movie with Mulan, you really do feel like you're at the cusp of them, like you said, starting to branch out, starting to get a little bigger. You have a nice I mean, I know they force a romantic angle, but you have a nice female protagonist that's not a damsel in distress, which is really cool to see. Yeah, and the traditional like historical story is, this woman was takes her father's place in the army and fought for 12 years, became a general
Wow.
herself. Like it wasn't just like a quick little summer, or I should say a winter break situation like it is in the movie. And but no, I know like I mean romance eventually did get involved and all that, so like it fits into the myth and all that, where it's a Disney movie, you're gonna have something with a little bit of I don't want to say charm, but yeah, there's no way they're not going to have a romantic or at least a whimsy angle to it. So I think they did a good job, like, because there's enough with Miguel Ferrer's villain, there's enough like implied violence that you have war, you have casualties, you have loss. It's smartly off screen. It's still very effective in the way they resonated with the emotions in there, but at the same time, it's still a very G-rated safe movie.
Yeah, I mean that's the weird thing about Shan Yu, who's the big, he's the leader of the Huns, who is invading the emperor's, domain.
Mm.
Basically saying he was upset because the Great Wall of China essentially was an affront to his people. Basically saying, you can't, you shall not pass. To go back to the Lord of the Rings thing, and he's like, I'll show you who can pass. But
Hmm.
he's an interesting character in that he is this giant, monstrous Hulk who's got these yellow, almost vampire eyes.
Yeah,
He's almost not human, and I feel like that's one thing that would not pass today for sure. The kind of
yeah.
the dehumanization of people, of different ethnicities. But there is just something kind of monstrous about him, and I
Mhm.
wonder about that choice, because I kept waiting for some story about like how he made a deal with the demon, and I was waiting for a giant
Right.
monster dragon to show up and help him at the
Especially,
end.
yeah, especially when they're backing Mulan herself with so much mystical stuff between the elders and ancestors, and of course, Mushu hanging around, where there's that mythological backing to her. Why not have him have a mythological backing too? And then you have a showdown of, I don't want to say Force Ghosts and the Emperor, like we're going back to the Rise of Skywalker, but it'd be nice. So yeah, it can do. How did this go for you as a musical?
I thought it was great. I mean,
Hmm.
there were a couple of songs like "I'll Make a Man Out of You," and let's
Mhm.
see, uh, I think it was a girl worth fighting for.
Yeah.
Was And I think what I loved about the songs was that they were story based. The animation that accompanied them was really spectacular, like that whole training montage. there's that there's that extra layer to it, which is, I think this is a movie that could resonate today, but I don't think it could have been made today in the same way that it was made in 1998. Because especially since, and again, we haven't seen the 2020 movie, but the idea that they're taking out the love interest, they're taking out the kind of the musical and the fluff, it just does feel like this is another one of those, this is going to sound really kind of crass, but another was like female empowerment movies. Like, she don't need no man. She's going to go kick ass and just prove that she's, just as, better than all the guys. You get that in the 98 version, but there's also some balance to it where she does need family. She does fall in love. She's capable of having like human emotions and getting attached to people.
Yeah.
But one thing I did love is A Girl Worth Fighting For. That's a cute, fun song, but it ends on this really stark, it's almost like the record scratch, where they're finishing it and then they come around the bend or over the hill and they see the decimated city where was it Shang-Li or
the sergeant's father? Yeah,
is all of his men have been wiped out, and it leads to this really kind of a somber moment. And one of the things I loved about Mulan in general is this balance of the whimsy and the darkness. This movie works on so many different levels beyond narratively, but also just performatively. From your tone, I sense that you didn't care for Mushu the dragon.
Nope. You know me and Disney sidekicks. We've talked about this. I could completely do without Eddie Murphy. Completely do without.
I loved him. I mean,
know.
Well, and that's the thing is, as a character, I don't think he makes a lot of sense. He just does feel like, hey, he's a dragon, he's a Happy Meal toy. But I think his lines were actually, pretty funny. They are anachronistic. In fact, there's one piece of music in the film. It's when Mulan finally decides that she's going to defy her father's order and run away to join the army. It gets almost like this weird kind of a techno.
It goes synth on you. Yeah.
Yeah, synth. Yeah, like a synth choice. And I don't know what it is, but it's like ripping me right out of the picture. Maybe that would have made more sense in '98, but it's just. Yeah, it's just strange.
I hear in doing the research on this and learning more, because it's been a favorite in this house for a long time. Chinese wife, so that helps a little bit. But she loves this movie. Her parents even call her Pink. So that's what we get with that. But no, that like in the movie, it was meant to stay score, but for some reason, that like in the movie, it's all synced up for some because it's an emotional peak of a moment. But like anywhere else on the soundtrack, it's orchestrational.
Yeah.
Music for me, I love Jerry Goldsmith's score, because you bring in an old school Hollywood pro doing a Disney movie, not some, no offense to Toy Story, I don't need Randy Newman and some fuddly duddly piano. Give me, if you're gonna do epic battlefield sweep, get a guy who can do that, and that's Jerry Goldsmith. He's done Star Trek movies. He did The Mummy the same summer as this. He would do The 13th Warrior the next year. I know he was up in age at the time, and he was brought in to replace. They wanted Thomas Newman, and Thomas Newman back then in the '90s was doing Meet Joe Black. So you would have got some quiet, soft little coffee shop music instead of like brassy battle stuff, which is totally Goldsmith, and I love. The score is what brings me into this, and I think where that blends the best for me music wise is I love that Reflection song. I know it's the first song in the movie. It's kind of her big solo, and it turns into the Christina Aguilera end credit song. But it's a nice, towering female empowerment ballad, but at the same time balanced with what do I do, what can I be, and the way the music swells with it, especially Goldsmith's score. It's an early peak moment for me that I really enjoy in the film.
Yeah, I mean, and talking about that empowerment theme, it's very interesting, contrasting this with. I can't remember. Did you see the Aladdin remake from last summer?
I did, sure did.
Okay, at the end of that movie, they changed up everything with Princess Jasmine's character, and they essentially made her the queen of the kingdom, or the ruling princess. And she just kind of takes it and she's like, things are going to change around here, guys, kind of a deal. And it bothered me because it just felt like that's not the kind of cultural sweeping change that you can just say, oh well, I guess we just got to start treating people differently as of 5 o'clock this afternoon. Um, in Mulan, it was interesting because I was watching this, thinking about that scene in the end where the emperor kind of bestows this honor upon Mulan, but they do it again in a very subtly different way. He doesn't just make her ruler of the land. He says, you can be on my, you can be my advisor, you can be on my council. Now, some people watching that might be like, well, why does she have to take that, subservient role? It's like, well, you have to understand that
This
you
is
just
as
don't
high as
snap
she'd
your
ever
fingers.
get. Yeah.
Right. Well, not
She
even
didn't get
necessarily as high as she'd ever get, but it's a stepping stone, and it's a huge stepping stone.
Sure
It's not
is.
like, now you don't have to walk behind, all the guys or something. You're going to be my advisor. But what was even more interesting was she decided, no, I just want to go back and be with my family, which, again, may be interpreted as like the quote unquote wrong decision because she's got to step up and own it and all that stuff. But it's a really nice note because she never really wanted to do any of this anyway. She did it because there was a war. She didn't want her dad to go. It was a great moment of sacrifice, but then the war was over and it's time to go home.
Yeah, and of course the father's reaction is tear-jerkingly perfect, where he's like, "No, I just want to see my daughter. I don't care what you won. I love that the Emperor found you and you have the bad guy's sword, but I just want my daughter back." And it's a perfect little ending for that moment. Now, of course, it turns into the, "You want to come over for dinner?"
Yeah.
Cheesy. You get the cheesy romantic footnote there, but which was you knew was coming, but that moment is earned and achieved very well, and that huge theme is they ring that bell a lot. And Disney movies are very simple about their themes, but when they do it right, they do it right. And the whole bring honor to your family. That's your bumper sticker for this movie, and it works in spades, and it does a great job because her bravery is fantastic. Her focus to save her dad is fantastic. And like you said, at the end, it's not about the acclaim and my woman's place or anything like that. It's, hey, I did this to save my family, and I want to go back to my family. And they do it right.
Yeah, and one of the things I did love, again, another layer, you could write a term paper on all the things this movie's doing with gender roles. It is a patriarchy that they're living under. Um, by and large, people seem to have accepted that just because that's the way things have quote unquote always been. But Mulan decides that she feels different even before she gets roped into this position of like, I got to make a decision about going to war. She feels like she may be better than that. She gets in league with this ragtag group of other, misfit soldiers.
Of Harvey Fierstein.
Yes. Who, as much as I was ragging on him earlier, I thought it was a fun character. And
yeah, he has fun with it.
Right. But it's not like she's in this, and I wonder if they're going to play this differently in the live action version. But in the Disney movie, the men are all buffoons, right?
Yes.
They're kind of gross and slovenly, and there's sort of this idea of like, wait, really, this is the dominant sex.
Yeah, like I know it's 98 in a Disney movie, but that's your locker room talk, like our current president unfortunately likes to talk about. So yeah, I have a feeling this will be very different in the modern one.
Right, and that's something that, again, not having seen the remake, I feel like the dynamics of these characters, of Mulan getting to know these people and earning their trust. Of course, it starts out with, they all kind of hate each other, but then there's this sort of makeup session in the lake, which goes horribly, wrong because she's bathing and then all these naked guys come in and she has to find a way out. I'm glad Mushu bit the guy's butt because I was wondering where they were going with that. But
yeah, oh boy, I ain't biting no more butts. Yeah,
yeah. But I just feel like that's something that was really key to making this movie charming, was the dynamic of this group of misfits. And I just wonder if it's going to be sort of like a G.I. Jane situation in the remake where they're all just like mean, grunt assholes that she has to like toughen up and become a different person.
A hard ass to be with the hard asses. Very good comp with G.I. Jane. Yeah, I wonder that too. I'm not sure how that's going to play.
Yeah. But I think as far as, the dynamic with the troops, honestly, I was reminded of The Nightingale.
I haven't seen The Nightingale. Tell me about that.
Well,
I mean, I know of it, but tell me your comparison. Yeah.
Well, Sam Claflin, British actor, plays the main villain in The Nightingale. He's the one that kicks off the inciting incident with the main character not having seen it. I won't spoil it for you, but he's the bad guy who's
Okay.
pursuing this girl that he quote unquote owned at at the
Mhm.
beginning of the movie. But he is also in charge of this ragtag group of like complete fuck ups, military fuck ups, and his
Okay.
promotion relies on getting them into fighting shape and getting them to a very specific point in the film. And they're just not betraying him, but they're screwing up so badly all throughout the movie that he's just kind of a wreck at the end.
Okay.
Partially
Okay.
due to that, and partially because it's on his self-destruction. He's a jerk. But yeah, it won't mean as much to you because you haven't seen the movie.
It's all
But
right.
if
I'll
you ever
follow you.
watch The Nightingale, which I recommend and don't recommend at the same time,
Okay. Okay.
you'll understand.
Okay. No. I mean, I think I do wonder what they're going to do today because I mean, earlier in the movie, especially with the Emperor's advisor bossing everybody around, I think that's James Hong, who's Revenge of the Nerds, Kung Fu Panda. He's a good he's a good bossy, frumpy, always flustered, Asian actor. So it's this whole idea of like a woman's forced silence, like you don't speak until you're spoken to, and like I'm curious how like you said, we especially in our current culture, how that will play today. Because in the movie, it's the bite your tongue, it's be quiet. It's a lot of that. But when you see Mulan's reaction to it is to not not immediately sass and fight back, but it's to just do better than act better, do better, perform better, and she rolls that adversity off her back. She doesn't turn it into well, why are you telling me to be quiet? Like I'm
Yeah.
curious how womanly this is going to be, good or bad, for the new one. So yeah.
Well, part of that is, proving herself in this company means using her brains in a way that, these guys who are just used to attacking the problem, they're all a bunch of hammers going after nails.
Hmm.
There's a great scene, I think it's at the beginning of that training montage during the I'll Make a Man Out of You. Uh, is it, what was the name of the captain? Is it, it's Li Shang is
Shang,
the,
yes, sir.
yeah, that she falls in love with. He like throws an arrow or something into a pike, like a very tall
I mean,
tower.
flagpole looking thing, yeah.
Yeah, and the challenge is they have to climb up and retrieve the arrow. And it
Hmm.
just looks like an impossible situation, even when they're just like clambering up this 90-degree thin wooden pole. But Mulan gets the idea to take these two weights with this, I guess it's a leather strap or something between, and
Hmm.
shimmy upwards, using this like kind of janky physics to pull it off, which comes in handy at the end.
Hmm.
Also, she incites the avalanche using the last of their cannons, which are like these dragon rockets.
Yeah.
The Huns are charging them. A huge swarm of
Yeah.
bad guys coming at them in the snow. It's a beautiful shot. But she thinks, okay, I'm going to shoot the rocket. Everyone thinks, oh, you've got terrible aim. He was right there. How could you miss the
Yeah.
guy
Yeah,
standing a few
man.
feet in
Yeah,
front of
Mushu
you? Right?
especially, yeah.
Right. But she causes an avalanche and wipes everyone out. Well, for 10 minutes, I still don't know how all those folks
No kid.
survived the
Come on.
avalanche. Yikes.
Yeah.
But it's this idea of her gaining respect, not just by becoming an elite fighter and kicking ass, but by showing folks that there's different way to think about combat and to
Mhm.
solve problems.
Yeah.
And at the end, there's a great, they're trying to get into the palace that's been locked up by the bad guys. They've taken the emperor hostage. They disguise themselves as concubines, and they use that shimmy technique to get
Yeah.
up the thing. It's
That's a
yeah,
scene that's not going to play this year.
no, especially I think the good spirits, when they're arguing at the beginning, said your granddaughter was a cross dresser. I'm like, oh wow.
Whew, yeah, we're not going to have that. So, yeah, I'll be curious to see where they take the mysticism, but then also, can you find where will they? I mean, I know they're going full PG-13, but you have to find some humor somewhere, and I don't know where that's going to be if you don't have Mushu. Now, I know Mushu helps this one, of course, and I can live with Eddie Murphy to a degree, but I heard with he didn't want to go shoot at Disney. They set up a recording studio like in the basement of his house in New Jersey. And the
Who, Eddie
director had,
Murphy?
yeah, he kind of big timed and said, I'm not coming down to Orlando or California. Like, you're gonna have to come to me. So yeah, he kind of recorded his lines off site away from everybody else, and they meshed them all together and threw what stuck on the wall and put it into the story and ran with it. So yeah, I'd like to see
Wow.
those those side cuts and bloopers. That'd be hilarious to see where he goes with that. What
It,
if I told you that the head of story of this movie and one of the co-screenwriters just directed a movie you and I hated?
I'd believe anything, but who's the person? Tell me who the
Yeah,
person is, and I'll see if I can figure out the movie.
Chris Sanders.
I know it, but I
Hmm
don't know it.
He just
Shit.
got done doing a movie where we were on a show together for a movie we both disliked. A rare situation where we both disliked something. He
It's
was
like
the.
it's like 17 years ago, Don. Since
It was this year. It was
no, I know. It's just
yeah,
this has been a crazy few weeks, so I don't remember. Forgive me. Which
yeah.
one is it?
He's the director of Call of the Wild.
That's where I know the name from.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Uh,
he obviously he came up in animation. He was a screenwriter and had a story on this movie, and had his took his career more to the filmation end of things, and did his first live action movie this past year with Call of the Wild. So yeah, I don't. I know I'm not a Murphy guy, but I don't know if there's a screenplay screw up here, other than you have to make something cute out of you're you're forcing some things with the concubine things and even the lake scene a little bit with if I see another naked man, like all that stuff.
yeah.
But I don't I to honor the core of the story and to show a woman's worth and show a woman's part to the story. I don't think the I know today's the Bechdel test, like the white man wrote a pretty decent female story here. I'll tip my hat to Chris. He did all right here.
Well, and that's the thing is, I don't. I was 21 when this movie came out, so I wasn't probably as immersed in cultural conversations as I am now, and we didn't have the internet really back then.
Yeah.
Uh, but I don't know if it was an issue back then. And let me ask you
Oh,
something. You said
yeah.
that your wife, who is Chinese, and her family, I guess, right,
Hmm?
appreciates this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Has there ever
Top of
been
the
any
list.
kind of conversation about like, oh, they got this wrong, or I can't believe
Yeah.
is some white guy trying to pass off, trying to write our culture?
The complaint, not in my house, but the general complaint I see and hear is the beginning when she has to dress up and present herself to the oh whatever the oldest matchmaking woman is
Hmm.
and like they do the Japanese more kabuki style makeup, and that's not a Chinese thing. That's a Japanese thing. So like that's one complaint I've heard, and it's a complaint I hear being levied on the new one because you see those scenes already in this one.
Yeah.
So I don't know how big of a knock or slight that is to either the Japanese or the Chinese, but I know that makes the list. Another weird thing that has grown out of this movie that I learned that some people are upset about the new one is our captain Shang Li
Li Shang, yeah.
Li Shang, apparently he's become a icon of the LGBT community as like a as like a bisexual advocate because he loves his men, quote unquote, but also, of course, finds love in one of his men who just happens to be a woman. So I guess he's a bisexual icon, apparently, unintentionally. And they're not having that character in the movie, which now devalues and doesn't represent things that they would love to have. So I'm not sure where that's going.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is I had heard that too before watching this movie, so I kind of expected him to have some inkling of a romantic interest in Ping, who is Mulan as a boy or as
Mhm.
a man, I guess. But there was none of that in
No.
there. It was strictly a platonic, not even a love, because this was like the newest recruit. He was kind of he just was described. Ping was described as a maniac or something
Mhm.
like that, a lunatic.
Yeah,
So there was a bond that formed over time, but maybe it's because none of these folks who are dreaming this up in their heads have any kind of experience with like military or team leadership or
probably.
anything,
Yeah,
right? But it's not
yeah.
like, oh, I love this guy. It's like, really? No, no, just hold on.
Mhm.
And that's not. I'm being flippant. It's not really a knock on anybody, but that's where things can kind of get into trouble because if you remove that character from the new movie, you can be like, oh, you're just trying to take away representation. I'm like, well, no, because that never meant what you thought it meant in the first
Right.
place. You can
No,
assume something and adopt it, but that doesn't necessarily make it true.
Yeah, but other than that, no. In this household, in this circle, it's a miracle you even got a reasonably decent representation of an Asian character be a lead in a film. Period. Because it took till what Coco to get a Mexican or Spanish lead that was kind of legitimately Mexican or Spanish. Um, I'm trying to think of the ethnicities that are semi-represented in Disney movies. I mean, you didn't have a Native American actress play Pocahontas. You kind of squeeze that one through I don't know, white colored glasses if we're going to go there and all that. So no, for this one to kind of try their best to honor, to use the word, but honor this story, it earns high marks from my house, that's for sure.
That's good to know because I mean,
Yeah.
I have these, thoughts in my head, my own perceptions, my own questions when watching these movies. I'm like, were people really bothered by this stuff back in the day? And again, we are, or you're talking from just your experience, but it is actually, as the kids say, a lived experience. So that's
Yeah.
that's legit. I would be curious to see if there was anybody who, was legitimately offended by or could see a different, mode of like how could this movie have been more representative or more sensitive to those kinds
Hmm.
of concerns? I'd be very interested in hearing that. It's
Yeah.
funny when you say the face makeup being sort of a Japanese thing. My question is, and I don't, I learned my history through watching movies, so
Me
this
too.
under.
Me
My
too.
question is, maybe whoever they were trying to impress had like a Japanese fetish, or was just really into that look.
Probably. Or what would look cool, like, or like just the extra layer. Oh, I've seen, someone who did poor research and goes, "Oh, look, that's Asian," "Oh, that would look good on camera," So let's do that makeup and because then she gets to the song and wipes it off halfway and then wipes off another half. Like I get symbolically what they were going for, and of course it looks very good, but yeah, I don't know where that's gonna go.
My wife's biggest criticism, because we watched like 10 minutes of it last night, but then I fell asleep because I was feeling a little under the weather,
Mhm.
not coronavirus. Um, but
Big disclaimer is going to go down the bottom of your screen right now. This man does not have coronavirus. Any mention of
or
coronavirus in the
does he?
show is, yeah,
Right.
right.
Um, but no, her biggest criticism was when Mulan wipes the face makeup away. It's just like a clean wipe.
Oh yeah,
It's not like actually
yeah,
taking off face
right,
makeup.
right. The rest of all of us would be like in here like scrubbing and like yeah, it'd be a lot too.
Oh, yeah. I was really kind of surprised by this movie, and it's not that I regret not having seen it. I feel like I'm seeing it at just the right time, in my life. I can really appreciate it. I love the songs. I was a big fan of the animation, and the story really got to me. So, yeah, I think that's why I'm more skeptical about the 2020 version. It's
I
like
know.
beforehand, it just kind of looked like not what was it, Snow White and the Huntress, a movie that I really enjoyed. But it's
Yeah,
like I've seen the girl in the armor fighting the
the
CGI hordes or whatever.
actionified thing. Yeah.
Yeah, the actionified fairy tale kind of a thing.
Hmm.
Now I'm just even more skeptical because it seems like they've taken all the color and the vibrance out of the '98 version and put it into a film that, just watching the trailer, it looks very gray. I mean, I know she's got the
Yeah.
red kind of robe and everything, and it's a
Yeah.
stark contrast, but the rest of it's just like, okay, they've got a witch now.
Hmm. No, I'm okay with where they're going because and I'm with you. Like the '98 one had sweep about it then, still has a good little sweep to it to now. You can still watch it and get swept up in all of it and what it is and the like even if you just enjoy the Brotherhood of Soldiery as much as you do the Bring Honoring to Family, all that I think can still play today. Like you can watch it, but it's only 83 minutes. It's an easy watch here at home, especially on Disney Plus where you get a little bit more 4K beauty and size to it, because some of those colors do pop out well. But you're right, that new one, even I hope that's them marketing the action just for the sake of marketing the action. Because I think that's what sells tickets is the. I mean, if it's Disney doing a wuxia film, that like wow, like that you got my $9 because maybe you can actionify that. But if in the background of this movie, between the action set pieces, you actually go wuxia with themes and sweep and longing and family, like if you can go there in the quiet moments as much as you do the battle moments, this could be something special. My optimism is high. compared to where
I,
you're at?
well, that's the thing is I have low optimism, but I have an open mind, or I will
Yeah,
when I sit down to watch it, because despite what people think about critics, we don't enjoy sitting down to watch movies that we think we're gonna hate. Like
yeah,
it takes way too much energy to be like, all right, here I go for 3 hours. I'm just gonna steam and fume. I think we all
yeah,
try and well, except with the exception of Mark Wahlberg movies for you. Um,
yeah. You got me. But
we
no,
try
but
and
I'm
we try and go in and let the movie do its thing, and
sure.
then however we act, we react.
Yeah, but I mean, but I'm at that point where I don't have to see everything. Like I'll recuse myself. I wish more critics would recuse themselves when they don't like something. Like I'm not going to name names here in your podcast. Whisper into the microphone. But we have critics in our circle down the press row who hate comic book movies, and I'm at the point where like, why do you keep seeing them then? Just stay home. You clearly are going to bring your hate every time. You're not going to give it a fair shake, and you're just going to piss and moan for the 2.5 hours you watch it. Why do it? Send somebody else to do it. Pass that story on to somebody else at your publication, and just move on. We have some of those people in our press row about these Disney movies. Whisper another name in the microphone. But yeah, so if you that I guess we can say if you can sell those naysayers, you've done a pretty darn good job. So yeah, if there's a comic book film someday that can win over the unspoken naysayer, and then if Mulan can do that for these live action Disney ones, that'll be something to see.
Yeah, very well put. Yeah, I'm open to it. I do wonder when we're going to be able to see this new thing. Like, here's something. I did watch this on Disney Plus, and when I went to search Mulan, I saw Mulan, and I saw Mulan 2.
Yeah,
Have,
straight to
have you?
DVD back in the day. I have not seen it now.
Because I was just wondering. Yeah, I didn't take time to watch it today, but I'm like, does
Mhm.
she dress up as a boy again? I like.
I don't know. I did see that whatever the log line is on Disney Plus was like, there's another battle or opponent before she gets married. Like, oh, great, now it's all the things get in the way of you getting married movie, which we've seen 1,000 times with, other demographics and types of movies. So
And
I don't
Frozen
know.
2 for crying out loud.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I know David Foley was looking at there's a live action one from is it 2008 or something? Like something made in
2009, I think.
China?
Yeah.
Something
Hmm.
made in China. I'd be curious to catch that. I'll have to hunt that down. Where if someone were to do justice to like, because I hear this story, this Ballad of Mulan, is like long form poetry. I know that I looked up an audiobook at the library. It's like a 27-hour audiobook. So
Damn.
something tells me this is quite a tome if you could ever put this thing on screen. So I'm curious what that treatment would look like if you shave out concubines and Mushu and you told the straight story, what this would really be. I'm curious.
And that's an excellent point. I'd forgotten about it until you mentioned it. But that 2009 version, I'd be very curious to see it, probably more so than I am in the 2020 Disney live action version. And I wonder if that's just my bias because I would assume that Mulan, the 2009 version, is so divorced from even Disney's storytelling
Yeah.
frame
Oh yeah.
that
You would
I'm
hope
not
so.
watching a remake of something. I'm watching a completely separate interpretation of
Hmm.
a story that I haven't really seen yet.
Yeah. I'll have to look that up here. I'm sure it's streaming somewhere. But
All
yeah.
right.
See here.
Well,
I'm digging in it. Mulan, Rise of the Warrior. You can watch it on Funimation now, which is a Shingle app that's a streaming app. But I think it's an international one. So I don't
oh,
know. Name drop to Funimation now.
well, I'll make you a deal. If
Yep.
Mulan 2020 doesn't come out within the next 3 months, I'll get you and David Fowley on the show, and we'll talk about Mulan 2009, and we'll keep
I'm in for
and
that.
and then we'll talk about Mulan 2. We'll just keep
Hmm.
doing this every quarter. We'll come back
Yeah.
until we're
Yeah.
all dead of the coronavirus or Mulan comes out.
Right, and here comes the disclaimer. The man on the recording does not have coronavirus. He's only speaking in jokes. So yeah, we're both fine. We're both fine. We didn't make a meme about Idris Elba and try to kill him like E-Man did.
Oh man.
Uh, no, I'm with you. That it'd be fun to explore where this goes. I have a bad feeling Mulan 2 is horrible, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we maybe we'll be surprised, and we'll probably find out in 6 months because I don't know if
Yeah,
this thing's ever hitting. But
I know.
I again, here's my other disclaimer besides the COVID-19 one. Uh, I am going to see Mulan 2020, and I'm perfectly prepared to have this be a really embarrassing time capsule of when I was trash talking a movie that I ended up
Right.
absolutely loving.
Right. And here you are clean shaven. You're going to look like a different person. You'll have corona. You'll lose 15 pounds. You'll look great. We'll
Dude,
all
that's
look
quite
good.
that's an incentive to go out and shake some hands, man.
Right. I'll grow hair back. It's going to be great. You'll come on full bushy beard. I'll come on with the waves. Ah, we're going to look great.
I don't think that's how
No, doesn't
COVID-19 works.
I wish it did. Or I'd have people coughing me. It'd be great.
Yikes. Be careful, because that's turning into a terrorism charge now.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the movies that get made out of this someday. Man. Whew.
I'll just say I hope there are movies that are made out of this someday,
I think so.
because that
Yeah.
means we'll come out the end of this smelling like roses.
That's true.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that happy, inspiring note, thank you as always for hanging out and talking Mulan. This has been a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, take care, sir. It's been nice.
Yeah, we'll catch you. We got to talk about something else soon, because Lord knows we have time. So I'll circle back, or you circle back, hit me up, and we'll
Sure.
talk some ideas.
Yeah, we'll get another pajama night.
Yeah, pajama night.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
All
All
right,
right.
man,
Take care,
take it
sir.
easy. All right, you too. Bye.